What's going on, everybody? Marl the Cross 316 back with another comic book flashback. Today we are looking at the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 86. This issue came out in July of 1970, and today we are seeing Spider-Man going up against the Black Widow for the first time ever. This is the first time Spider-Man is going to meet the Black Widow. It's a pretty exciting issue, and this is going to be an awesome story that we're going to be looking at today, so do not click away. So before we get started, go ahead and give this video a like. Also subscribe and click that bell so you'll get notified whenever another video like this will come out. And so you'll be the first to watch it. So today's title is Beware the Black Widow. So we'll be looking at Spider-Man, and he's going to be tackling the Black Widow today. This issue is brought to you by Stan Lee, who wrote this issue. We have John Romita and Jim Mooney doing the illustrations and Sam Rosen on the lettering page. And so now let's go ahead and get started with today's issue. Like I said, the main person Spider-Man will be going up against today is the Black Widow. If you don't know too much about the Black Widow, you'll find more about her in this issue. But one thing we need to focus on today is that Spider-Man is feeling a lot really groggy today. He's really groggy in this issue, because we remember from last issue he had just fought the Kingpin, and we had that big storyline with the Schemer, and we found out that the Schemer was actually Richard Fisk, who was basically Kingpin's own son, who Kingpin had thought was dead but is actually alive. But now, since we've gotten past that, we're now going to be introduced to the Black Widow. Now, this is not going to be the Black Widow's first appearance. The Black Widow made her first appearance, and I believe tells the suspense. I can't remember the issue number. If one of y'all want to go ahead and give me that issue number, I can. You can let everybody know. But I know that she went up against Iron Man, and that's where she made her first appearance. We see that the Black Widow here is pretty much stalking Spider-Man here, and one thing and we need to understand and why she's doing this is because she wants to learn Spider-Man's power. That's the main thing she wants to do. So she makes it back to her apartment. She's been known as Madame Natasha here for her entire career, but now she's looking to make a fresh start. She's wanting to get out of a life of just being this mediocre crime fighter, and instead she wants to put her past aside. She's had a lot of haunting memories in the past, and so she wants to create this new costume. Here's a little bit of a summary of her past here, how she was a spy under her native land of Russia. She is a Russian, and she was sent on a mission to fight Iron Man, and then later on in her past, she also met Hawkeye. And her and Hawkeye actually had a romantic relationship, but they both broke it off. We also learned that she was also married at the time as well to another man, and she was sent on a mission by Nick Fury. And we see that while on the mission, we saw the death of the Red Guardian, and the Red Guardian just so happened to be her own husband, so she has to live with that guilt as she witnessed the death of her own husband, the Red Guardian. She was also a full-fledged member of the Avengers. So just a few things, if you didn't know about the Black Widow, there you go. We see here that she's at her apartment, and like I said, she wants to put the past in the past, and she wants to make a fresh start. So she's going to create this new classic costume that we all know and love today. It's the costume that the MCU has used, a variation of it, but also it's the costume that we're most familiar with if you're a comic book junkie like me. So we see that Spider-Man is swinging through the city, and he was going to return to his apartment, but we see that he has company there, and it just so happens to be Gwen Stacy, her father, and his roommate, Harry Osborn. And all of them are basically worried about where Peter Parker is at, because remember, he had just left the scene, and we also they both suspect, her and her father suspect, that he's in line with Spider-Man, that they're working together. So we see that Spider-Man's going to change back to his civilian identity as Peter Parker. He goes into the apartment, and we see that Gwen is so happy to see him, even though she's mad that he's been away and hasn't been truthful about where he's been, and we see that upon hugging him, we see that both her and her father notice the bruises on his face, and those bruises came from the fight with the Kingpin from last issue, but he can't tell them that. And so at first he's like, stop hounding me. So he almost loses his temper here. But then she's like, how could you say all this when I'm so worried about you? And she's, look out here, he said, a girl who loves you. Oh, wow. So we see that Gwen is actually making a declaration of love here in this issue. Pretty awesome stuff. So we have the admittance of Gwen saying that she loves Peter. And so she says, look, you can call me when you are coming to basically tell her that he will promise that he will stop working for the Daily Bugle and that he will stop hanging around Spider-Man. Those are the things that she wants Peter Parker to promise her if this relationship is going to work. And so this has left Peter Parker in a big dilemma here. Is he going to stop working for the Daily Bugle? Is he going to stop being Spider-Man? He definitely doesn't want to do that. He still has the thrill of being Spider-Man, even though he would love to have a life of just being a normal person. So he's caught in a dilemma here. He doesn't know what to do, and he's still feeling really groggy. So to get his mind off things, he tries to go and study. We also go back and we're seeing what the Black Widow is up to. We see that she has made her costume. It looks like it's made out of black leather. A really sexy look, I have to say. I mean, for any guys out there who read comics, we can all agree that the Black Widow made a great adjustment to her costume. Just some classic stuff here. Wow, John Romita definitely drew her very well here, I have to say. So we see that she begins to start training, but again, her main thing is she wants to know what makes Spider-Man tick. She wants to find out everything she can do, and so what she's going to do is she's going to track down Spider-Man and battle him to learn some of his offensive moves here. We see that she swings on by the Daily Bugle, and Jameson's like, all we need is another Spider-Man in town, and we don't even need a female to boot. And so we see that she's going to be stalking the Spider-Man. We see that is Spider-Man even going to come out and fight her? Well, we see that Peter Parker, he can't study. He's still feeling groggy. So he changes back to Spider-Man. He swings through the city to get some exercise to get his mind off Gwen. And we see that he comes across Jameson, and Jameson's like, I'm going to call the cops on you. And he's like, Spider-Man's like, oh, go join the silent majority. Anything to shut you up. So we see that then Spider-Man's going to swing on by and check on Aunt May, and he almost scares her half to death. So that wasn't going to work. So this is finally when he meets the Black Widow for the first time. He's swinging through the city. He gets zapped by the Black Widow's bite here, and this is the first time the Black Widow is going to fight Spider-Man here. And so some awesome stuff here. Black Widow versus Spider-Man for the very first time. She's just putting up a fight to learn more about him, and she's kind of wondering, why is he, not showing a lot of his abilities? Why is he acting strange here? And it's because he's feeling groggy and he's not 100%, but she doesn't know that. Spider-Man puts up as much of a fight as he can, but she notices just how weak he is, and she's like, look, Spider-Man, for a so-called living legend, you're a king-sized disappointment to me. So, wow, that's a low blow. And she even says, I'm beginning to think Woody Allen could take you. And not that he would want to. And so we then see that Spider-Man is going to break the ropes here from Black Widow here, and then he's going to clog up her wrist gizmos here, and causing her to panic here, noticing that, wow, I can't go toe-to-toe with Spider-Man. It's just not worth it. So she returns back to her apartment, and so now she's like, whatever the secrets of Spider-Man possesses, that remains with him. I had to find my own way to become powerful, because everything that Black Widow has learned in the past came from training and combat. It didn't come from an accident like with Spider-Man's powers. So that's where we're going to leave off with the Black Widow for now. we see that Spider-Man tries to collect his thoughts here, and so he's going to then still feel very groggy after that fight. He's going to return back to his apartment, and he gets back to his apartment, and he's like, you know what, I need to see if I'm losing my powers, because that's what I fear the most. So he basically is going to try to test his blood, but upon getting the blood sample, he pauses and he's starting to sweat, and he's like, do I really want to look at the results here and see the chance that I am losing my powers and that I could become normal? And so his big dilemma is, does he want to be a normal human being without powers, or does he want to continue being Spider-Man and have the thrills of adventure? That's the thing we're going to leave off right here with that big question. Next issue, we're going to see the unmasking of Spider-Man. Oh my goodness. And so we'll be looking at that next issue in issue number 87. Hope to see you there. And until next time, keep reading comics.